Hi everyone, my name is Victor and I am one of the authors of Technique.com. Today we're going to continue with our course and we're going to be looking at the Linux kernel optimization. In our previous videos, we've looked at managing the Linux kernel, and I divided this topic, managing the Linux kernel, into 3 parts, right? In the first part, we looked at the right way to manually install and update the Linux kernel, where we looked at what a kernel is and the benefits of kernel. In the second part, we looked at the Linux kernel module, and in this third part, we're going to be looking at the Linux kernel optimization. All right. So the kernel can be tuned for optimization of your environment. All right. So instead of recompiling or rebuilding the old kernel to suit your environment, if it's not really working the way you want it to work, you can tune or optimize the kernel. And changing the kernel module parameter has also been discussed in one of the articles, and that's one way of optimizing or tuning the kernel. All right. Tuning the Linux kernel can be done using sysctl or can be done in the proc directory. So let's look at the proc directory. The proc directory is the directory, cd/proc. Yeah, so this directory is the directory that contains the real-time information of the kernel. Alright, we've already established this in one of the previous videos when we talked about the Linux file system and hierarchy. Okay, so if you list the content in this directory, you'll see the real-time information of the kernel. So if you look at CPU info, for example, so let's cut the CPU info file. All right. Oops, it's like I'm just hungry today. All right, so you can see the CPU info file here. You can see the information about the processor, the vendor ID, and a lot of information about the CPU. All right. Also, if you also look at let's look at the uptime file as well. So let's cut this file. So you can see the uptime of the server. All right. If you also look at the version file, you would see that this directory tells you the real-time information about the kernel. Okay, I'm going to clear the screen. The proc directory is a directory that contains the real-time information of the kernel. Alright, so let's see the content in this directory. So for example, if you look at the CPU info file here, let's cut this file. Okay, my system was a little bit slow there. Alright, so when you look at this file, you would see the information about the CPU. Alright, so you can see the processor, the vendor ID, you can see the model name, you can see the CPU cores and every information about the CPU. Alright, so if you also look at the uptime file, let's do this again. So we can see the uptime file here. Let's cut the uptime file. Alright, so it will show you the uptime information of the system. Alright, so if you also want to look at the version file, you can do cat version. Alright, so this will show you the version of the system. So the proc directory contains the real-time information of what is happening in the kernel. We've ascertained this fact when we talked about the Linux file system hierarchy and structure in one of our previous videos. All right, so the proc directory also contains some subdirectories, and these subdirectories are the directories that we're concerned about in this subject matter. All right, which is the proc sys directory. Alright, so let's go to the sys directory. Alright, my system is hanging. Let me just give it a while. Okay, so in the sys directory, let's list the content in here. Changing the Linux kernel parameters in this directory requires that you know what you're doing, because a wrong change can cause a problem you did not plan for on the system. Alright, the kernel directory here contains all the core functionalities of the kernel. Alright, so and the net directory contains all the core functionalities related to network, while the VM directory contains the virtual memory functionalities as well. And in the kernel directory, you will find some of the Linux kernel parameters being used by the system. Examples are the sysrq, the hostname, the on-task panic, normal balancing panic, the shmark, the shmarks, and the rest. Alright. Also, in the net directory, you will find some of the Linux network kernel parameters being used by the system. A very common parameter in the net directory is the IP forward file. Alright, so let's do that. Let's go to the net directory and let's list the content here. So you can see the IPv4 file. So let's go into the IPv4 as well. Let's list the content in here. You can see IP forward file. Alright, so I'm just going to cut this file. You can see the value of the IP forward to be 1, which means that the system can forward an IP. That is, it can act as a router. This value can be changed to 0 if you don't want the system to be a router. And to change the value, you can use the echo command to do that. To use the echo command, you're just going to do, let's see, we are in proxysnet IPv forward. Alright, so use the command echo. Let me echo 0 to this location. I want to be sure I copy it correctly. Then to IP forward. Alright, and if you cut this file, let's see, so you can see that the value has been set to 0. If you use the text editor, using a text editor will not work in this, or may not work in this subdirectory. Alright, so you use the echo command. So this is one of the ways you can tune the kernel, by changing the network parameter. Alright, at the beginning of this lesson, I mentioned that you can either do that from the proc or use sysctl. So we have seen how we can do that from the proc directory. Okay, and you should also know that this kind of changes will not be persistent. So when you reboot the system, the changes will be gone. To make the changes persistent, we need to use the sysctl command, and in the next video I will show you how to do that. Alright, so thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, and bye for now.